Guys, we're a minute away from Pink Friday 2 by Nicki, her first album in over 5 years. I would tell you my expectations are high, but that would be a lie. That was a moment from our live album reaction to Nicki Minaj's new album, Pink Friday 2. And if you guys want to catch the entire live album reaction, you guys could do so by hitting up the link in our description or in the pinned comment. But guys, welcome to our official review of Pink Friday 2 by Nicki Minaj. Her first album in 5 years, a very anticipated moment for the Barbs and for the hip-hop community and the music world as a whole. So, what were your expectations going in, and take me through your artist performance?
All right, so just to answer the, by the way, hi everyone. Just to answer the artist performance question, I guess I could kind of answer this also with my expectations. I wasn't expecting Nicki to do anything different than she already hasn't done before, if I could kind of put it into words, if I'm being honest with you. I didn't expect her to have a complete artist evolution. I didn't expect her to go into country music. Like, I knew what I was going to be getting out of this album. With that being said, I do feel like once you start to get into Nicki Minaj's performance throughout the album, she's kind of offering a different experience for her Barbs, and I do feel like this album is really catered for like her fan base and her fan base only. So I want to say that before I even get into the review. This is not music for you and I. And And this is the way that I feel about the album. But once you get into the artist performance, I have low points and I have high points that I do feel like she did do well or she didn't strive in. So example, the low points for me are really on the cheap hit attempts. And I feel like there are a couple of those on the album. So example, Pink Friday Girls or something like Everybody with Uzi, even something like Super Freaky Girl, for example. You get these like Anaconda-esque performances that I never really enjoyed from Nicki Minaj, even from like the inception of her career, where you just get these empty verses. The flows are kind of static. Yeah, it's kind of just like all smoke and mirrors from Nicki, and you kind of know what those records are meant for and why she's performing that way. They're obviously going to do well in the charts. You know, they're going to be super popular amongst their fan base, but I don't feel like that's the substance of Nicki Minaj, and that's not what you're going to an album experience for. But
why are you throwing some shade at Anaconda, bro? Iconic music video, like that.
Maybe for you at your age, maybe for you at your age. But I'm just saying overall, as the music goes along, you know, you're not really getting much out of the performances. I mean, yes, you do get these kind of like high energy flows and like these kind of screechy like cadences to a certain extent, but for the most part, they're kind of empty performances, and you do see that throughout the track.
Absolutely. I think in terms of my highlights, I think her best performance on the album came on Red Ruby The Sleaze, which was a single that came out before the album had dropped, and she goes into this menacing bag. She's rapping with a lot of aggression, and this is what I wanted more from Nicki on the rest of the album, is having dynamic performances on one single song, which you get on Red Ruby, where you're getting a singing hook, you're getting her rapping hardcore, you're also getting her trying out different accents, and to me, that was the full Nicki Minaj experience in terms of what she's capable of.
Okay, so let me say something else, you know, because the thing is that Red Ruby The Sleaze like did crazy. It did crazy on the charts. Like, it was a really big hit for her this year, and I feel like that's just proof that Nicki doesn't necessarily have to make those Anaconda-esque like formulaic records anymore, and she's able to have substance, like you said, all kinds of different flow switches, even the transition from her verse one back into her hook. It was great stuff all around. You'll also find maybe a bit more of like an emotional performance from Nicki on a song like example, I believe it was Are You Gone Already, which is the intro of the album. I feel like that was super heartfelt. You hear these nice somber vocals from Nicki. I feel like that was well done. Even something like Last Time I Saw You, that was a bit more emotional, but you're only getting that from maybe one or two songs on the track list, which is kind of a shame because I would have loved to maybe see a bit more of that and a bit more of like that emotional personality. But then you also get a bit more of like an aggressive Nicki on something like a Barbie Dangerous, for example, where she uses the same flow as Biggie did on Notorious Thugs off of Life After Death. So I feel like that was a cool homage. She was rapping at a super fast pace over there. That was a good rapping performance, but like those are really the standouts of the album.
I want to say, as much as I do appreciate that performance in Barbie Dangerous, I like the passion that she brought into it. She held on to that flow for too long, in my opinion. Like, it's one thing to pay homage.
I'm not sure.
Listen,
I agree.
Like I said,
okay, go for it.
It was a better performance than most of the other tracks on here. And also, I think this was on the song Fallen For You. She does the picture a perfect picture. She does that whole 50 Cent rhyme scheme that he did on Places to Go off of the 8 Mile soundtrack. And I think it's cool to find those hip-hop Easter eggs and seeing her pay respect to some greats. Apart from that, though, I'm really not pleased with the performance at all. I feel like there's a lot of awkward shifts from rapping to singing on a lot of cuts on here, like Are You Gone Already or something like Fallen For You, where at one point, like, she'll lay down a rap verse and she has these singing harmonies behind her, and there's just an overlap of the vocals that make it sound too clustered in the mix.
You
so
find that was prominent on Are You Gone Already? I don't know.
Unfallen for You mostly.
Okay, because Are You Gone Already was maybe one of her better performances for me. It's one of the records that I actually do enjoy the most off of the album. But let me ask you something else, okay? Because you do get island vibes from Nicki on the track list, especially on songs from Ford, from Trini, and Needle, which is obviously with Drake. So how did you like to see her attack that in 2023? It's obviously been a staple in her arsenal for years. So how did you like to see that and hear that again on Pink Friday 2?
I just enjoyed the variety at that point. You know what I mean? I think that's what's cool about it is that Nicki did attempt to be versatile here, although I feel like her singing falls flat oftentimes on a lot of these tracks. Looking at something like her terrible rendition of Girls Just Want to Have Fun. I can't remember what song that was, but it was a Cyndi Lauper remix that she had done. And just, yeah, her continuing the formula of
Pink Friday Girls, by the way.
Yeah, Pink Friday Girls. Apart from that, I mean, there's not many great performances. Even Cowgirl was awful, bro.
Yeah, Cowgirl wasn't great. But, one performance where I was like, maybe if the production was better, I could have gotten into this song, was FTCU, because I was even speaking about this with you before the live album reaction. I'm sorry, guys. I'm a bit under the weather, so I wasn't able to come into the stream yesterday. And I was like, I like that Chun-Li cadence. I really do like that sort of stuff. And I like that demeanor. I know you're a bit off with it.
She's rapping off beat on that song, though.
I find it was good. I feel like, especially on FTCU, like that was like a good example of like Nicki being menacing and bringing like more of a hardcore cadence to like, let's say, her hip hop performance on.
My other major issue is that like when we listen to Nicki Minaj, like we were talking about earlier, she's known to have slappers. She's known to have hits that really go above and beyond the majority of mainstream rap songs and other songs, even in the pop world. But there is a serious lack of memorable and catchy hooks all across this album. Looking at like the beep beep hook, or even the fact that like she lets a lot of the guest sampled vocals carry the hooks for her.
Yeah, that's a complaint that I'm going to be having a lot in the production. Like I feel like that really weighed that portion down.
Yeah, so overall, I'm going to go mid with the artist performance. I don't think that she had more than a couple of performances that were dynamic and that were entertaining for me.
I'm going to go good with it. I feel like it's a run of the mill Nicki, excuse me. I kind of expected this, and I do feel like you do have quite a few good performances overall, but it could have definitely been better. So
absolutely.
Let's go on to the content. So I've said this before in different reviews. You don't come into this type of album and expect an Illmatic, and nor did I expect that, nor did I want that. I mean, Nicki's never been really the one to have like these crazy concept albums, and that's not what I want out of a Nicki Minaj experience. But something that I do feel like was lacking throughout the entirety of the track list, and maybe a bit of a generalization here, there was a lack of punchlines, and there was a real big lack of like, Nicki's slick double entendres and like the type of wordplay she usually brings to a studio album.
Couldn't agree more.
So that was something that I felt like was lacking from the overall track list, like that lack of memorable lyrics. But I do have standouts as far as writing goes.
I just feel like, as expected, you're getting a fiesta of like raunchy lyrics and one-liners that really make you cringe. Which is sort of, again, it's expected when it comes to a Nicki Minaj album. It's going to be over sexual. But when you have lines on here like "pop me vitamins when I ride the dicky," or lines like "give me my 10, then take away 2, I 8," or something like "I am the wave, I only wave when I'm telling them bye." By the way, all those lines are on one single song, FTCU. Like, that's just an example of the type of lyricism you're getting from Nicki on this album. But I want to talk about some positives, even though they come very far and few between across the track list. Looking at something like Are You Gone Already, having her rapping and singing about her son never getting to meet his grandfather.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
Felt like that was hitting some nice emotional
Not only that,
moments.
Last Time I Saw You was supposedly another song that was dedicated towards her father, and like the fact that like she wished she could have spent more time with him and like hugged him tighter. So that's still one that's a bit unconfirmed, but like people are speculating online that was another record that was for, her late father. So I love those types of records. I feel like it's beautiful to be able to put that into an album experience. Another one that I really enjoyed was Just the Memories. I feel like it's Nicki's Away From Home, if that makes sense for you, where like she's reminiscent about her career, talking about how the record labels turned her down, how she really had to take her own path within rap music and prove everyone wrong. I like those types of triumphant, sort of writing pieces on the album because they offer a different and unique experience than the rest of the songs.
And I feel like that's one of the only moments that you actually get topical focus from Nicki for the most part. And yes, you might argue, okay, you have some topical focus on other tracks on here where she's rapping about having fun with men, or where she's rapping about how she's the queen of hip hop and that she's better than every other female MC. But we've gotten so many Nicki songs like that. They're a dime a dozen at this point, and I just feel like when it comes to the catalog, it's not refreshing whatsoever. And I feel like after such a long wait, she didn't really have that much to say. In my opinion, I'm going bad with the content just because I am getting some of the worst one-liners of the year. Like, he bend me like Prietzel, or post a pic, got him jacking like Jill now.
Yeah. So the reason why I'm going to go with mediocre for the content is I feel like you said, when you go into the entire album experience, there's really cringy one-liners, and you're not necessarily going to find memorable writing. The lack of punch bars as well. Like, just what you come to enjoy from Nicki Minaj is not that present throughout the entire track list, with the exception of maybe like 4 to 5 tracks. There is topical focus. There's a theme to the song. It's well written. It's well structured. So I went with mediocre.
That's fair. I was just let down though. Like, even on a song like "Let Me Calm Down," for example, you're supposed to be getting a storytelling cut, but the way that she's going about this experience she had with an ex, it's just entirely vague, and there's so many like details that would make a storytelling track vivid and imaginative in your mind that are missing, that J. Cole had to make up for during his verse. So just really disappointed with the writing on this album.
Okay, want to go to the features?
Absolutely. So the feature, we had a crazy feature list, very stacked. Drake, J. Cole, Future, Lil Uzi Vert, Lil Wayne, and more. And the first feature that we got on the album was Cole on "Let Me Calm Down," he absolutely slides on this track.
It's decent though. It's nothing too crazy. Like, I don't want to give him like I love J. Cole features. Don't get me wrong, but
bro,
what did you want him to do?
What impressed me was just the fact that, like, while Nicki's flow and delivery was a bit too slow for those fast trap drums, J. Cole perfectly matched his rhythm to that beat, bro. Like,
yeah,
he was
for sure.
He was in the perfect pocket.
It's standard J. Cole. It was a good verse. I think it was a good performance, but it wasn't anything too crazy. I wasn't left like absolutely wowed. I
liked it a lot, to be honest with you, just because he's taking you through that story of like a troubled relationship and the importance of like making a difficult relationship work out just because that person's your ride or die or whatever it is. I just felt like it was very eloquent. It was well articulated, and in comparison to Nicki's verse on that track, it was impressive.
Okay. How about Tate Kobang on R&B with Wayne? How did you feel about those performances?
It gave me like 2000s R&B energy.
Yeah.
It was a cool hook.
And how did you feel about the Wayne verse?
Oh, it wasn't good.
Yeah.
It wasn't good whatsoever. I mean, he's recycling like She Will bars and not really rapping with any energy. The auto-tune was okay. Really very forgettable.
I feel bad, because Lil Wayne's one of my favorite rappers of all time, and it's just like, I get it. At this point in his career, I can't really expect much, but something a bit, better. At least
give us a Sing Green, Nicki. Come on now.
No, but you're not gonna get that anymore, at least in my opinion. But okay, how about Drake on Needle? This was a massive feature. People have been wanting to see this collaboration for a long time. Sing Green was massive, as you said. I feel like Drake did his thing. Slid on the island vibes. Felt like that more life type of Drake that you could play in the summer. Fantastic throughout the entire track, and it's one of the best records on the album, to be honest with you.
I really love the hook, bro. It's wavy. It's infectious. There is one part within his verse where he goes like, Like, I don't know if you remember that part.
Yeah, I do.
That threw me off on first listen. But like you were saying, yeah, the hook is super infectious. I think that when you get Drizzy in the island vibes, even if he is sounding a bit monotone on there, that's kind of the point. You want him to sound relaxed and chilled out. So that really wasn't an issue for me. And like I said, I think it is the best hook on the entire album.
Okay.
I'd go as far as to say that. But let's talk about Uzi on Everybody. This is light work for him. It's another Just Wanna Rock type beat.
He didn't even do bad on it. It's not a bad feature. It's just
I wasn't mad about it.
Whatever, That's really what it is. I'm like, you know what? At least they stay to what the intention of this record was. It's really just to get it going in the clubs and try to replicate that Just Wanna Rock aesthetic. And I get it. I understand. Thank God it's better than the Pink Tape record. Thank God.
Yeah, man.
That was a shot in the dark.
But I'll say this, though, even though his performance is pretty average on it, like, Nicki and Uzi have two of the worst songs of 2023. I think that was something that Spectre was saying in the stream last night, and I couldn't agree more. Like, bad track record together. But let's talk about Future, who was featured on Nicki Hendrix, and I feel like he created a new rap style with this song. Mumble singing is what you ended up getting out of this.
You know what? You know what's crazy? I went through this album again this morning, and like, I never really want to pull up Genius for a Future verse or for a Future performance, but when you go through his intro and when you go through that first verse, you could barely understand what he's saying throughout it. And it's like this slurred out version of like a Hendrix Future
Yeah.
that just, it feels weird. It feels awkward. It's completely offbeat. And hey, listen, I fuck with my, with my Future when he gets into like some romantic bags, when he gets into that like sort of Hendrix. I do like it. But when it's done like this, it's just not my cup of tea.
Coming out strong. Gurua solo, like there's incredible melodic performances from Future.
There's good stuff all around, but I saw my missed text. I wanted to clear him. I feel like he really love you. How you let my love near you. It's like, all right, Future.
What are you trying to say, bro? No, but honestly, like, forget mumble rap, guys. Mumble singing is the new wave.
Mumble singing is the new wave.
But then we also have Tasha Leonard, who brought some gospel vibes on Blessings.
Yeah, she had really nice vocals on it.
Really nice vocals, but I was just thinking, I'm like, how the fuck did this end up on the album? It was just so random. It was so left field, bro. Like, you're at the end of the track list, and you're like, really? We're doing this now? We're doing this at track 20?
Fire. Shout out to Tasha, though.
Tasha.
It was low-key one of the best performances on the album.
She saved the song, so
it's
for whatever that's worth.
Yeah, it was fire.
I'm going to go mid with the features, though.
I'm going to go mid as well. I don't think there's much to go through. I mean, when you have, like, Drake, J. Cole, Future, Uzi, and, like, you just feel, like, underwhelmed for the most part, I don't think it's that great of a sign. But you want to keep going with this.
Absolutely, guys. Next up is the production. Let me take you through some of the A-list producers that were attached to this. She enlisted the help of ATL Jacob, Boy Wonder, Murda Beats, Hollywood Cole, Dr. Luke, Benny X, and many other talented producers. And the biggest problem for me is the beat selection itself and the ploy to like spark attention by over abusing these vocal samples that are coming from like these classic hits to a point where you're like, this sounds so identical to the original version of this song that I would have rather have heard Girls Just Want to Have Fun, or I would have rather heard Super Freak by Rick James. You know what I mean? That's how I ended up feeling by the end of this track list. And what's crazy, guys, is that if you do a count, a good 3/4 of this album is pretty much remixes, production-wise.
Yeah, not only that, but once you get like the 2002 record "Move Your Feet on Everybody," it's just like,
and that's a classic dance song that they butchered.
It's really people. It's sad too because they tried to put like a Jersey club beat over it, and I'm just like, well, I don't know how that feels in 2023. And I don't want to diss sampling. Lou and I are massive fans of sampling.
Absolutely.
It just has to be done right, and I think that when you start getting onto tracks like "Everybody," for example, where it's just so heavy, bro, and it's used for almost every single line that Nicki's attacking. It's just not for me, and I really can't go into an album and expect to gain that much value when, like you were saying, you did the count. You have more than like 60% of this track list that are just renditions of like old songs, and it goes back to my Anaconda point. I feel like that was such a successful song for her that I feel like they tried to take that blueprint and they tried to sprinkle it throughout the entire album. And yes, while I think Barb's might be happy with that, and while like, people might enjoy it and dance to it, it's just not for me. And I think it really brought down the production value of the album.
I think that's what's disappointing, is that it just shows what the approach was, because obviously looking back at like First Class or two Super Freaky Girls, two #1 hits in recent time, they follow that formula of bringing back old classic hits and heavily sampling them to the point where it feels like a carbon copy. But I do want to talk about a few standouts that I have production-wise, one of them being Needle, produced by Wanda and Yogi. I love that because it was a breath of fresh air. You got these island vibes, this passion fruit type of production that was just really breezy and really unique in comparison to everything else you got on this track list. So that's a standout for me.
Let me go through one standout for me as well. And I think that you're not a big fan of this production, but Are You Gone Already, excuse me?
Yeah.
Was produced by Phineas. This is actually a sample flip of Billie Eilish's 2019 track When the Party's Over. I just like the way that Billie's vocals like bleed in and out of the track, and I feel like that was a good use of a sample flip in comparison to other songs on here, like the ones that you had mentioned or the ones that I had mentioned. And I think that if you're going to attack that sort of sample game, this is a great way to do it, and it was a great way to enter the album. And for the most part, I also want to say another thing. The mixing and mastering on the album is actually pretty solid. There wasn't any cases where I felt like the vocals were too low, or where I felt like the samples were just ringing off of my ear for nothing. All of the features sounded like they were mixed and mastered the same as Nicki's vocals, like, at least for myself, like the basics. And that's kind of a rarity for me in 2023, because I've gone through a lot of different popular studio albums as of late, and I found myself being like, well, if there's a lot of big budgets behind this, at least mix and master the album properly. So at least I'm happy for that. I'll take that out of the production.
Yeah, not many other standouts for me. Some highlights, or should I say lowlights. One of them would be Let Me Calm Down. And it's a song that's written and designed to be like this introspective love song. And yet you're getting like these intense trap drums, which totally stick out like a sore thumb. And that's the song with J. Cole. I found that was really off-putting. The worst beat of all for me had to be Big Difference, though. That sounded like listening to a miter saw cutting through wood, bro. I swear to you, I'm telling you, put those sounds side by side. I promise you, it's identical. The production's bad to me. Despite a couple of standouts, there's no saving graces for me.
I went with mediocre with it. I don't think there was besides the one that you had just mentioned, there's no really any bad beats. That's the reason why I went with mediocre, is that I feel like they just played it safe throughout the entire track.
Everybody's not a bad beat.
No, I don't really think it doesn't sound bro. I don't take off my headphones. I didn't.
I did.
For me, that's where I draw the line. If a beat is bad, it's unlistenable. I can't listen to bad production. All right, listen. At least I had gotten Everybody from 2002. I got to hear it again. I think it wasn't the greatest mix of it, especially when you get those Jersey Club drums on it. But whatever, it is what it is. So I went production mid. But let's go into the replay value of this album. Lou, listen, man. I know you're not the biggest Nicki Minaj fan, and I know that you, regardless of the way this was going to play out, I knew that you weren't going to be visiting this album all the way through.
How many do you think I'm keeping?
I think you're maybe keeping one.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you're probably. Could I guess?
Yeah.
Red Ruby the Sleaze.
Actually, sorry, two.
Red Ruby the Sleaze.
And Needle.
There we go.
Just for the Drake hook.
All right.
So, what about you?
I'm on the fence between 4 and 5.
I'll say this though, objectively speaking, without my own personal taste, I think in terms of songs that are meaningful to Nicki's catalog, definitely Just the Memories is gonna be one of her shining moments.
Last time I saw you, Are You Gone Already? I would go Needle as well. Red Ruby the Sleaze, and you know what? Barbie Dangerous.
Yeah.
I'll say
fair.
yeah. I'll say
that's fair.
5 or 6.
That's fair.
5 or 6 out of 22. That's why I'm going to go with a mediocre score for the replay value on my end. I think, listen, in order for it to be, I'm just trying to attack this from an unbiased standpoint, all right? If it was bad, I would be taking one song. So I could understand why you're going with it, But
I'm going to go bad with the rating for
I'm going to go mediocre
value, especially with the album being this bloated. Replay value entails that we're talking about the album at the end of the day. And when my ratio is as low as it is, even if it's only 4 or 5 out of 22, it's an awful ratio in my opinion. And there's just too many versions of Nicki that we've heard before with better production, with better performances.
Keeping less than 20% of the track.
Yeah, bro. Bad replay value, but overall thoughts. Nicki Minaj took 5 years to create this album, and she did not show any artistic progression whatsoever over the course of these 5 years. I felt like rapping-wise, there wasn't too much hunger coming out of a lot of these verses, and I feel like she might have reached a point of creative bankruptcy just looking at the formulas that she sort of pulled from to craft the majority of these songs. It was really underwhelming, and she did not bring the bars for people like us that go into Nicki music for punchlines, for lyricism. I think even the Barbs might agree that lyricism-wise, it was subpar.
I will say this. She made the album for the fans. The fans really wanted Pink Friday 2 and they got it. And she tried to maybe give them a different experience that they haven't gotten, let's say, from a Nicki album. I will say this. It's probably a weaker effort from the past 10 years. Like you said, I do feel like nothing much has changed in the artistry.
No.
Everything is kind of predictable throughout the track list. But for some people, that might be fine because they might enjoy that and they want to get new Nicki Minaj music. But as someone that's kind of an outsider in this world, I just don't think I'm going to gain too much out of this track list. As I said before, punchlines were missing. The writing was kind of lackluster. You only get maybe 5 to 6 records that do have that intentional topical focus throughout it and that really do feel good for Nicki's standards. So overall, I'm going to go with a mediocre rating. Do I think it's a bad record? No. But I think that if you're a Nicki Minaj fan, listen, you're going to grab your songs, you're going to have a good day, and that's it.
I think it's a bad album. I really do believe that. But guys, listen, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Is it bad? Is it mid? Is it perfect? You guys let us know in the comments. And as we mentioned earlier, we did do a live album reaction to this album. Link available in the description or in the pinned comment. And we have a lot of exciting album reactions and album reviews coming all of 2024. So make sure to hit that subscribe button if you are new here and the notification bell to not miss a single video. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.